Yeah, hi, it's me, Big Ugly Jim, your smallest of the small streaming Andes. So, is it taxing for alabasters to date POC as taxing for alabasters to date POC as it is for POC to date alabasters? Well, first off, I can't answer that because I can only assume it's taxing for people of color to date us honky folk. I have to assume that it's a bunch of taxing. Having never been a person of color, I can't correlate that. I can speak to my own experience, which is not a huge experience of dating people of color, mostly because I don't really date a whole lot, and I never really have. I've had relations with people of color. Probably doesn't really give me a whole lot of room to speak with any expertise on what the white folk think when they have to date people of color. I can tell you that I've been around plenty of people of color in romantic sort of entanglements and in friendships and in all sorts of other. As a relationship anarchist, I kind of put all relationships in the same mental space. So, I can speak to my own experience in that regard. And I wouldn't say that it's exhausting for us or taxing for us, because for the most part, we have that white privilege, which means we don't have to care. I'm not saying that we don't care or that we should not care, but a lot of the times we don't factor it in because we're so used to the world we live in. Totally unrelated, I will get back to that because I do think it's an interesting question. When I was in grade 3, there was a kid named Lucas who moved into the apartments down the street from my house. And Lucas was from a family that had very recently escaped Poland. And he and I became friends initially and then not friends. When we were friends, he invited me over to dinner several times, and I went for dinner. And we, when we'd come over after school, we'd play for a while, then have dinner, and then head home. And eventually there was a falling out. My then friend Eric and I had a falling out, and Eric and Lucas became friends, and Lucas was not my friend, and he did not like me at all. And I was like, "What's going on? Why don't you like me? I'm good." And he said something to the effect of, when you came over for dinner, you didn't even thank my mother. I'm like, I thanked her for dinner. And he's like, no. You didn't thank her for going without. And I was like, what are you fucking talking about? And he's like, when you came over for dinner, my mother didn't even eat. You didn't even notice that. And the honest answer is I couldn't have noticed that. As a dumb fucking white kid from a dumb fucking white neighborhood where we always, if you went to somebody's place for dinner, you don't really factor in that maybe someone's not eating because they didn't have the money to pay for an extra meal. So the mother was giving me her meal. And I didn't realize because that's so far out of my experience set. And I don't feel like I did a bad thing as a kid. I think it was very much like how kids do. In the same regard, like I've grown up in this culture. And when I have been around people who are not from this culture, I'm very aware and I try to be as respectful as possible. But the default settings in my brain tell me this is how the world is. And so I will trip over myself without realizing I'm tripping over myself because of my own ingrained lack of understanding. And that ain't a good feeling when you realize you did it. It's a very terrible feeling. But it isn't taxing until it becomes taxing in that moment where you realize you fucked up. Versus, I think, if I can speak as a outsider looking in, I would imagine that people of color who have very different mergings of cultures, that experience is not shared. That experience is, yeah, this is how the world is, but this is also how the world is. And when you're dating someone who is an alabaster, as you say, having to worry about being enough of this one culture and also staying true to that culture and trying to help them understand, because let's face it, I think a lot of white people don't unpack a lot of their shit, and as a result are probably very exhausting for partners who are people of color, because they're like, I have to teach you all the basic shit. I'm just speculating because I don't know. I was gonna, while we were talking about dating, and I hope that that sort of answers the question in the sense that I can't really answer the question, but I can say that I guess. Oh, the piece that I didn't say is this, and that is that as a person who is conscientious and wants to not be that person, in that sense, having relationships with people of color is additionally taxing for me, because there's a perpetual fear of, fuck, I'm going to screw up. I'm going to say something that is dumb. And I mean, like, I've done a lot of unpacking of my mistakes and figuring my life out and stuff. Like, the chances are that's not a thing that would be, well, yeah, it's probably still a thing. But you know what I mean? Like, far less than if this was my first foray into caring about people who didn't have white skin. But there is a sense of otherness that comes with being the white person in the room. And it's an area where we suck because we're not used to being other. So when it's, like, for example, if I went to a wedding once that was a Vietnamese wedding, and there was a lot of Vietnamese people there, obviously. And I mean, I didn't do anything stupid, but there's a fear that, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to interact properly. So I do think there is something to that. But I think, like, if you put that on our scales of justice and we say, what white people feel is here and what people of color feel is here, it's going to go like bonk, like everything else. First off, I want to say thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Thank you to my patrons that support me on Patreon. I am a little streamer, and these people are all really awesome for supporting me. I try to put up stuff at least once a week, and I live stream every Saturday at noon Mountain Time on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, like an old man. Again, thanks for watching, and have a kick-ass day.